And talking with Utah League, and we talked with our state senator, they've all told us there's not really a chance of that passing. So
This year.
So for funding this year, I don't think there's anything more that we can count on moving forward for 19 and 20 through the legislative process. If for some reason HB 362 gets on the ballot or a version of that and gets passed, I can't remember what I remember was. It was, I think, about close to $500,000. If 362.
So HB 152, Scott Sandel, transportation funding revisions, authorize cities, counties, or towns to use up to 50% of current balance of local highway and transportation corridor preservation funds for construction, operation, and maintenance of Class B or Class C roads.
So I don't think that, from my understanding, when you talk about, didn't say enhancement funds or purchase of right of way. So there's a whole separate funding that's for acquisition of right of way, and that they're just saying that from the money available, the counties can use more. Right now, it's only 30%
For construction.
It's more for the acquisition of right of way.
Right. That's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
The bill allows you to use up to 50% of the money for construction and maintenance.
So can I maybe shed some light
Please.
on
Yeah,
So that bill is, they're talking about an amendment that will allow it to only be for first and second class counties.
Right.
And it's specific to corridor preservation funds, which we as a city, we don't have any. So it's mostly for the counties that have corridor preservation funds, and it's what it's supposed to do is allow the rural counties who don't have enough funding to actually take care of their roads. It's going to free up some funds in the corridor preservation fund to allow them to do some maintenance and some reconstruction on their roads. It's not going to help counties of the first and second class. They're still going to be required to, under that old percentage, to maintain those funds to actually acquire right of way for corridor preservation. So I
But
don't
isn't
see
there
it.
a revision in here too being talked about where it would open it up to counties of the first class and cities as well, or first, second, whatever?
My understanding of that is that the first counties of the first and second class will still be restricted to keeping their corridor preservation funds for corridor preservation. The rest of the counties that are lower than that, the rural counties, will be allowed to use more of that funding for actual road construction. I don't think it's going to benefit us in any way.
Okay. Any other legislation that we're following?
Does the dog one have to do with getting cities to have more control over their own gas tax?
it's the
No.
sales tax component.
It is just a sales tax. Is there any bill right now that has anything to do with the gas tax and cities being able to offer that? Because I had heard that there was one
There's
around
one that's changing how the states can use their money to help create more money for education. But our understanding is there's nothing on the table for cities outside of Representative Dawes. So his bill, if it were to pass, all that means is that it still would have to go to a vote of the Utah County public, and they would have to vote yes, and then that funding would free up for us. So if it does pass, we're still a year away from obtaining it.
So if we need to get to 3.8, you've identified a consistent 1.5, so we need another 1.3. 2.3, excuse me. See, I told you my math wasn't exact. 2.3. Back to some of the discussions that we had prior. Gas tax is already included in this, and you don't anticipate that changing up or down.
Well, there's a little bit of an escalator in that. We just don't know what that's going to be.
When will we know?
Just over time. I mean, there's a function, but that's only going to be.
It's really minor though, because I mean that gas tax only
stuff I can access, it's pretty much just what everyone's allocation is and how they're allocating it, you know, based on what type of roads they have and that type of stuff.
So I don't know if we have a specific answer on how much. What we did find out is in the projections from last year's review of what we expected to come in, it didn't change what we actually did. So that's a good thing. But at the same time, so we're pretty comfortable that this is what we're going to get. Now, what we could have got, I think it was relatively close to that. There was a little bit of a reduction overall, but it looks like from the numbers, it's not changed.
What increase does it represent dollar-wise over what we were given?
Like a few years back, I guess.
I mean, think about Class C, even in the past, it fluctuates just slightly. I mean, it wasn't like
In 15, we got $1 million was our final number.
in 15,
In 15,
16, we had $1,083,000.
yeah, we were like 990. That looks like that was 14. So you're looking, it's just only been moving a little bit. It's been pretty flat. That was 14.
This is
what-
what mine is.
And that's after the gas tax?
So after, we've gone up to 1.18, so at least another 100,000 from 16. But 16 has a partial part of that, right?
16 had a partial, but then the allocation they gave us in November that was for 16. The information I got is that there still may be some adjustments to that during the course of FY17. So they're still trying to fix whatever happened in February of last year when they
When they found the error.
found the error. So that hasn't been completely fixed, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to be dramatic.
Well, the fluctuations could be a few tens of thousands. It's not
Yeah,
really
that's what-
fluctuations.
yeah.
And what they projected for us was $177,000 increase. on the
Increase.
tax. That was the number the league gave us initially, and I think we're pretty close to
Yeah.
That was the first pass?
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that was the formula. The formula got messed up on the first year's collection. That formula has now been remedied so that we're back whole. Now, we're not whole for that 1 year where we lost part of it. But moving forward, I think we're whole on the 177,000.
So if you look at 15 to 17, that's where you see the effect of the full year of gas. If you jump from 15 to 17.
Yeah, that's what I, yeah,
Yeah,
because you
Because
got the whole
16
thing.
contains a partial
Yep,
year.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that 170 or whatever you said?
So this year we're projecting, so it's a little higher than 172 million. Last year it's actually looking like from disbursements that it'll be 1,130,000.
And so 15 was a million flat.
Yeah.
17 is 1,180, which is pretty much right on what the league said we get.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were at $1,003,000 in 15, and we're projecting to be $1,018,000. That's what they told us, pretty much our 177.
All right, so rolling forward, I'm trying to just follow a couple of lines here, not the whole thing. We eliminate the Class C reserves. At some point, after Marty does the formula, it looks like it fills out an 18, and then it's 0 for carryover, right? The next line looks consistent, 1.18. There could be some fluctuation in prices or what's collected and distributed, but as far as any major revenue changes by the legislature, they're done. The next ones are really, what are we going to do about HB 362 and Prop 1 and whatever?
Yeah, so that's the political solution right now is figuring out 362 or a variation.
Okay. The other one would be the modification that would allow local cities to create either their own sales tax for whatever to add to gas, or a road fee to formalize that so that, you don't get sued or anything. Was there a third one?
Yeah, property tax.
Property
We could do a
tax.
property tax increase.
So they would
And that's because that's all we have available.
Right, now it's changed.
That's changed a little bit.
So,
And let me clarify one thing, because obviously in our planning, we have expensive projects, we have some less expensive projects, and sometimes when you're building up, for example, 1100 North is going to be one to consider. That project is very expensive, and we may not have enough money in one given year to do that. So what you would see is that we would hold some over to the next year, and so we may, that's one thing that we'll have to determine. At what point do we utilize the entire budget for a full year? Well, we may need to hold some over so that next year we can actually get the big project done. So that's the plan.
so the number we can count is 1.5.
1.5 every year. And,
So are you anticipating that you're going to stick to the 730?
and really don't know right now. Over the next 2 months, I guess I could say by April 1st, I'm hoping to roll out a new plan. We'll talk in between probably sometime in March about that plan and then come out with something a little bit more efficient towards the 1st of April. So right now, we've got an additional $270,000 that hasn't been programmed anywhere. We're anticipating. One of the things that do kind of what I've found over the last 2 years of doing these budgets and projects is that one of the things in our road planning, as far as money available and needed, to do the road reconstruction is a certain portion, and then because you're reconstructing a road, the state law requires that you also upgrade your ADA access through that corridor. So, for example, on Garden Drive, we had $200,000 in road pavement project out of that $650,000, but we also hadn't calculated into that the need to replace 15 ADA ramps, and that cost was $60,000 alone just to do the ADA. What I found is that as we look forward, we're going to be programming that in at the beginning because it's not something that we can forget. Otherwise, we just become directly liable when we have that problem. So, what I will have in the next month or so is I want to help you understand what the budgets were, what was actually spent on each one of the projects out of that budget, and then kind of as we look forward, kind of where we expect to be on things. So
For the 3-year plan.
for the 3-year plan, so I don't want to look at past. This is what we did over the last 2 years. Here's the budgets we had. This is what was spent to get those projects done. And then we look out and say, okay, do we have a good number in there for those things? And that's what my goal is over the next 2 months, is to get that all refined and use actual numbers now that we've got over a couple of years of work to give us better estimates on those roads. Because everything before was a number that we had prepared and said, okay, for this type of a treatment, let's say an overlay, we had $2 a square foot in there, and then that became the budget. Question is that $2 a square foot a good number? It's probably good just for the overlay, but if you do an overlay and have to replace the ADA ramps, that $2 a square foot may not cover it. It might need to be $215 or $220, and that's the numbers that I've got to look at. And I'd like to, we'll get that information to you as we look at going forward for our budgets.
So when we look at the 3-year again in March,
Yeah.
then the number might be larger for what you're going to spend, and you'll have some of this detail worked out.
Yep.
In the meantime, we need to address the 3.8 or the 2 point whatever it is, 2.3, which is, Scott, is that up or down from what we were staring in the face last time?
As far as the 3.8 number, the
is that every year you don't have enough funding to get the work done, then some of those roads that were good, see, the 20-year concept is that you have 3.8 million available that year. We're now 2 years down the road, and we've had other roads that have deteriorated to get worse. So your number's only going to go up. We haven't reevaluated, is it now 4 million instead of 3.8 a year that we need? Because we've had some of those fall down that we haven't got to over the last few years. That's very likely. The 3.8 was at that kind of a point in time, and for every year that we continue to push this down the road, it's just going to get bigger.
Do we need to just have a separate meeting on this subject?
I think if we're going to talk funding, yes. And in fact, we could, maybe our February 14th work session.
I think this subject, for whatever reason, this particular subject is on my mind as like the big elephant for 2017. This is the one that I don't sleep at night over this issue. It's this 3.8 million that is growing at some pace because we're only addressing it, 700,000 up until now, and it'll jump to 1.5. And it's just constantly getting worse. The kinds of problems that I'm seeing and sending to Marty, he looks at the road and it's like, we just need to replace it. I mean, why try to dig up and patch this much alligator? The whole thing needs to be replaced, and that's starting to happen everywhere. Everywhere. So this is to me, this is a top priority for us to focus on. In 2017.
Just one thing, so a good example, Orchard Drive that was on our 2017 plan, so it's something that would be done. At the time we did the evaluation, everything, it showed that it needed to have an overlay. $2 a square foot, concept in that. Right now, as I went and looked at that a few months ago, I'm not sure that I can do an overlay anymore on that road. It's 2-3 years down the road since we did the evaluation, and that's a good example of how things go from, I think if we caught it at that point, we could have done an overlay. We might be looking at a mill and pave now, and so it's going to jump to 350 square foot. So that's what happens with roads as they continue to deteriorate. They're manageable here, and then all of a sudden they just kind of fall off. You get a bad winter, you get a lot of moisture into the base, and then you have all this alligator cracking happening, and then your roads pretty much just has to be reconstructed. That's what we're trying to avoid. And if you have enough funding, you can come up with a plan that will help that. So you can catch them before they drop to the most expensive treatment of reconstruction. If you don't have the funding, there's nothing you can do about it other than to sit there and watch it happen, and then your costs go from $4 million a year up to much more than that because you haven't addressed even some of those that are on the edge right now.
And I think that when you add the winter that we just had, like I'm looking at 30 East right now, so we've had a lot of rain, and then that night we would rain, and then that night it froze, and that next morning it was like the street was just popping, there were just potholes everywhere. So I understand that there's just this beautiful decline, but then sometimes you just get a crazy weather pattern that just I'm just watching the alligator just explode.
Council, what are you guys thinking about the priority of this?
Well, so if we're going to have a separate session on it, I think there might be some ideas that we could at least throw out on the table. I had a really interesting conversation with, I've been looking at the road user fee on the utility bill for a while. I know 7 cities, at least that I know, have implemented it. But I had a really interesting conversation with John Claus, and he put a little thought in the back of my head, and I want to throw it out there. We know for a fact that the gas tax is the most perfect measurement of user. Clearly, Pleasant Grove Grove City's budget is not going to solve, there is no way that our budget, not even if we cut every service, we can't afford to fix our road problem. So we have to have the state help us with the gas tax. They're not doing it. So we're now trying to just come up with a Band-Aid until the state figures out that all of our roads are going to fail if they don't do something. Is that correct?
I think the state feels like, when I say the state legislature as a body feels like they solved the problem 2 years ago.
And we say no.
Utah County said no.
Right.
Other counties said yes. And so when you look at the totality of it legislatively, and it's with Brian Green's bill last year, you know, the Speaker of the House and those said, we're done. We're not talking roads anymore. We've done what we need to do. And there's other cities that are saying, no, that wasn't enough, or, you know, that wasn't the solution because of the UTA component. And so the legislative political fix, I'm not sure what that is.
Is-
It
We're
won't,
not
it
in a
won't
whole-
happen in this legislative session. And if we wanted it to happen in January of 18, we have to start now to build the consensus in the coalition amongst the legislature to solve the problem, which I think is a daunting task.
It's huge because there's just a lot of other people that have to get on board, and right now that's not coalescing. In Utah County, there's people on board. Orem's on board, Pleasant Grove's on board, and some of these other cities. But I would say, you know, throughout the state, I think Tennessee passed the HB 362.
Those are big ones, Salt Lake and Utah County did not.
Davis and Weaver did. I mean, those are big counties. So I don't. The legislative fix to me is out here.
Right. So my point is, I'm less hopeful that the state is going to come to our aid
Yeah.
as I was even 2 years ago. So on a road user fee, and I'm asking the question honestly, if we use units as our measurement, because we can't use the gas tax, can you say, put a time limit on it, or a project on it? For example, I don't know how much 1100 is, or, you know, if you said, okay, we're going to implement this road user fee or transportation fee for either a project or a time limit, say until the state comes in with money, we're going to come up to meet it, and then as the state comes in, that can decline. Is that more palatable than just a forever, you know, on the utility bills?
Well, any fee that the city council implements is on a yearly basis. I mean, you always have the ability to adjust that fee up or down every year, or leave it the same.
Maybe this is not
362, I think, was only 500,000.
Right.
I mean, that's, now we're down to 1.8. So as we look at it, it's like, that's not necessarily going to impact us because we're still going to be way short on our funding.
So, and I'm looking at it going the other direction, which is we came from the ability to spend around 700 a year to $1.2 million to whatever it is now, $1.5 million. So to me, this is like, how do we get that number inching up towards this 3.8? And the 3.8 is going to change over time, especially because we're not putting enough into it now.
Right.
But we need to figure out as a city how to get us from where we are today to that point. And I'm not sure the legislature is going to step in, whether they do or don't. We need to have a plan.
Well, I mean, like I said, if the legislature does step in, it's not going to get us all the way there. I think, and when we talked with our state senator, he said, they want to see the cities be participant in this as well. They just don't. That's why the sales tax fix is not all encompassing for all the cities.
Except for they have control over the most perfect measurement.
Well, they do. And I'll say this about gas tax, because of electric cars now and things like that, it's become a little outdated because it is based on the amount of gallons of gas used. And so the mechanism to fund roads is, I think, going to evolve over time. I think Ben brought up flying cars in 20 years,
Well,
They're not worried about the roads.
it might be the most perfect measure really is a toll booth, probably. I mean, that's the clearest trips on that specific
Yeah, it
road.
probably is.
But the gas tax is a close approximation aside from alternative fuels that are more commonplace now. From my perspective on this, and this is the biggest issue, I think this is the number one issue for the public. I think a work session on Valentine's Day is a great way to show the public we love our roads, we care about this issue. If we spend February 14th talking about roads, I'm okay with that. But and this isn't going to be very popular in this room, maybe at the back of this room, but broadly speaking, from my perspective, if we did a zero-based budget and said this is the highest priority, the first thing we ought to do with our city budget is make sure this problem is funded and then solve all the rest of the needs we've got after that. That's really what we probably should be doing. This is a crisis, it's a critical issue for the city. The legislature is not going to solve it, they're not going to solve it with enough money to solve it. And I've long advocated that we let the public vote on a piece of it that's new funding and a piece of it that's budgetary reallocation. A hybrid solution, I think, is the only way it's going to get done in a way that's going to be palatable to everybody. But it's a big problem.
Well, we have put money into it.
We have.
So rather than
match
go down
that.
the solution path now, I'm asking the question: where is the road issue on your radar as far as priority?
Number one.
Yep.
So aside from everything else that we're going to do and work on this year, the number one priority that we would focus on as a group would be coming up with the funding for the roads. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay, Scott, can you schedule us for
Yeah, so for the
a
14th,
meeting that's the only subject that we have?
well, so 14th, we already have a couple items on there.
Then let's have a different meeting and discuss nothing but this road thing. We need to get our arms around it.
We could do our off Tuesday, the 28th.
You go ahead and figure it out.
Okay.
We don't have to decide that right now. Sooner rather than later would be better.
Okay.
Okay. Was there anything else you wanted to bring up on this item?
all the way to First East. So that's a big utility coordination. I don't know water or sewer needs on that section that would play into the storm resolution.
And what's the distance there? That would just give me an idea.
Just from that section alone?
Well, let's say from First East to East. And I'm sorry, this is just a question I keep
Okay, so
having
here's First
people
East.
talk to me about.
How far to the east?
Well, where
That could be done all the way up.
yeah.
I mean, it's,
No, to do it and do it right.
so I think there's two sections to be considered. The lower section, which is from First East to the canal, that's a total of 3,600 feet.
Okay?
And then from the canal, is it from there approximately?
Well, that's kind of new, right?
It's really just halfway. That's again about 3,900 feet from the canal up to. And I don't know exactly where the break is. You don't need to do it anymore. Yeah, there is a section. I think this upper section is
It's
new.
new.
This lower section was 3,400 feet, and this lower section was about 3,600 feet. So it's kind of midpoint. So your total, add those together, you're looking at 60. I would say about 7,000 feet.
From 130 all the way up to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that all the way down to or you're just saying kind of analyze that?
No, that's
We're going to look
expensive.
at it, but I mean, again, the overall cost of that, because it is in such bad condition, is reconstruct, which is $650 a square foot.
Yeah.
So I know that it's millions of dollars that we're talking about when we start talking about reconstructing that road. And so how does that work into $1.5 million of available budget in a year? It doesn't happen in 1 year. We have to carry it over and again, we can phase it. We can do, to Fifth East, from First East to Fifth East. We can do,
But then when you cut that road, like when you do it in a section like that and you're seaming, is a seaming the same as a cut?
Well, I think what we're saying is we just don't do a project, any
Right.
projects for a year. We do this all at one time. We just have to save money for a couple of years to do that, so that there's no savings.
Okay.
now let me clarify. I mean, doing from First East to Fifth East, I wouldn't say let's not do that section if that's the amount of money available. The thing that once you kind of get it into a smaller project, then you increase the cost because now you're designing it separately, you're bidding it separately, you've got a smaller contract. So we have to kind of identify what is the best bang for our buck for any road that we do. So it might make more sense to wait for a year and do it all as a bigger project than do half and half.
Does 1,100 hit all the criteria for,
We'll look at it. I mean, it might be a little bit contingent on the storm rate budget being available to do a project of that size, to make it make sense. But, definitely.
Because I think your traffic-
And traffic, I mean, it's high in
High volume.
volumes. It's in dire need. There is a utility project that would coordinate that. So it's hitting all of the points. The question is, how soon could you do that funding to actually do the job right?
okay,
And so 100 East.
So back to 100 East. Had a meeting with Utah County last week talking about the RFP for getting an engineer on board to start the project. They're under I think it goes out next week from Monday, so on the 6th of February is when they're planning to put out the request for proposals for engineers for the design of the work. The timing, I guess, to me, the project isn't overall that complex because you get a lot of in-place infrastructure and you're just reconstructing the road. So I think the design will go a lot faster than if we were constructing a new road and doing a lot. We do have all of the curb and gutter. So right now, the RFP indicates that it's new curb and gutter from essentially 2600 North on Pleasant Grove to State Street in any section that is missing. Plus, there are a couple sections, like Second to red is where we've got missing curb and gutter. So that's where we would see new curb and gutter being installed. If there was a sidewalk there, then a new sidewalk would also be installed in accordance with that. But if there was not one there, there is no plan currently to put any sidewalk behind that curb. They're only concerned with the right-of-way, travel way, not pedestrian access along it. So right now, you walk on dirt through those sections, you'll continue to do that unless we're able to work it out. So I'm not sure if we can get anything worked in there, if there's extra budget available to do more enhancement to the corridor. Definitely, we're going to push for everything we can get with the funding that's available. But right now, it's just curb and gutter. So that's up to 400 north. You can kind of see those sections. From 400 north up through 1500 north, you can see a couple of other sections of missing curb and gutter. North of that, you can see that there's quite a bit now. There was a discussion about the Savage Estates development. Right now, this parcel here is Savage Estates, and this here is Savage Estates. So they already have in their project to do curb gutter and sidewalk, roadway widening to meet that section, which might take a little bit of the funding, more funding available to do other types of projects within the right of way is what I'm pushing for. But they'll be this section here and that section there. So that takes out a good portion of that, as well as all the stormwater stuff that was planned in that section, as well as the crossing village there. So all the way up to 2600 north receives curb and gutter all the way down that section. A little bit of storm drain improvements in that section as well to be able to accommodate water. 2600 north will be realigned slightly as much as we can. Ideally, it's a very difficult intersection because of the skew that it ties into Canyon Road at that point, and looking back at an elevation. And so we're going to have that analyzed and come up with a good, reasonable plan for that. It may not be exactly how we would like it, because ideally we would actually have to acquire property to make that work.
Talking about trying to come in at a 90?
Yeah, so if this was to come in at a 90, it would have to kind of not necessarily take this house, but come up into here.
Come through that big.
And we don't own this property, and the county doesn't either. So there will be a discussion on that. There will be discussion on how far we can go to get this intersection right, and we discussed that. From this point on, all the yellow you see there is widening of the roadway to give a reasonable shoulder, which we assumed at that point was 2 travel lanes and 4 foot, at least for the shoulder area. So is it enough for a bike lane or a walking path? No. Obviously, if we had the ability to do that, we would look at doing that, but I'm not sure that we will. Right now, it's planned to widen by an additional 4 feet. Right now, if you go up there, sometimes you're within a foot of the white line in the edge of that pavement, and then it drops off on 4 inches onto kind of bad road base area. So it'll be a much needed improvement, a lot safer for those that do use that corridor. They'll flatten out the lazy shoulders. Up to essentially the Murdoch Canal crossing, trail crossing. This is what's in the current agreement, that they would do everything that was planned there. So widening and full construction to this point on Canyon Road. From that point on, the plan is just to mill, I believe, 3 inches of pavement and repave that, so it'll look new, and it'll just deteriorate faster over time.
How far?
All the way to around Fort Canyon.
With or without support from Cedar Hills?
Without, doesn't matter. And again, it's just a mill, 3 inches. The widening will be limited. They had planned to do, if you look through here, essentially from this point all the way up to Cedar Hills Drive, where their fire department is there, that was all planned to have new curb and gutter all the way along that side.
From the canal all the way up?
That won't happen now. And a new storm drain system and a retention basin here, property acquisition, all of the other stuff that was kind of for the benefit of their storm drain issue.
why? There were no interest.
No interest on the part of the council.
Right.
Is it still like 5-0, or is there?
The impression I got, I don't think they've taken even a strong poll, but they said that all the proposals from commissioners to try to sweeten the deal have all fallen flat, and that the council, other than the mayor, has very little interest.
I mean, I think for us, I don't know if that necessarily matters.
Other than we have citizens that live on 100 East.
That, well, I mean, the
Our citizens.
portion that's Pleasant Grove is going to be,
Looking at this from a citizen perspective, we have people that live all the way up to behind the firehouse in Cedar Hills. So to me, 100 East is, from their perspective, part of the road that they drive on. So, you know, yes, from a project and an agreement perspective, that's the Cedar Hills side of things, but from a real life interaction, we got people that live all the way up there.
and that's fair enough. I guess if we decide to do that, then we're taking on more road.
No, I'm not suggesting we take on the road. That's why I'm asking where
Yeah,
Cedar Hills is
Cedar
at,
Hills is
because if we both agree, then the entire road up to the canyon gets taken care of. But as it is, it doesn't sound like that's like.
Well, and let me clarify too, they're going to receive a significant improvement still. It's going to be a mill and pave. You're not going to know the difference for years to come between a mill and pave. It's going to be as smooth as our section. It's just going to probably deteriorate a lot faster, and they're also not going to receive some of the widening and curb and gutter improvements. So our residents that are north of the canal are still getting a significant improvement to the road section. It's not.
I understand that.
South.
And for 3 years, it'll be great.
Yes.
But the reality is there's no curb and gutter going in, there's no widening going in. It's a gee, I feel great. I got a new shirt, and boy, 2 years from now, it'll be gone. All right, thanks.
So wait, Marty, any conversations about the east-west on 4,000 all the way to Canyon?
So 4,000 north will be addressed as far as the connection, making it safe connection, that's also in the agreement. And then the only other, so you have 2,600 north, 4,000 north, and then the connection to SR 192, right at the mouth of the canyon, they'll be doing some additional enhancements here to make this a little bit safer. There was some rockfall issues that they have. So a lot of this here will still remain in the project as planned with some enhancements. So as of our TAC meeting that we had last week, or actually last Monday, right now the plan is to approach MAG with the same funding being available for the project, but maybe some of that funding being shifted to enhancements in the overall corridor of Pleasant Grove, as well as here at this intersection enhancements. So right now, these enhancements here weren't in the original plan, other than to reconstruct it, put in some rockfall issues, but they want to look at maybe realigning this and coming up with a configuration that works a little bit safer. And so that's right. That was what was pitched.
I know, but who's pitching this?
This is Utah County.
The county's pitching this?
Yep.
Really? Okay.
So you'll see that, Mayor. I'm sure in your committee.
First in the mouth. I'm just saying that it's a very different environment. It's good.
So I think we'll obviously, they've asked me to be involved with the process, so it's been good. I think that we can throw our perspective in there.
So Marty, if the RFP, if that gets wrapped up, what would you estimate would be the start time on construction for 100 East? I don't want to do the.
Yeah.
Strawberry days.
We're not going to, yeah. We are probably.
The first day of
have
school.
A lot of say other than I'm going to say, I don't know, if we can phase this thing, if we can get a contractor started, that would be awesome. We'll keep going on it. The one thing that I'm a little concerned about is our water lines under First East. We've been talking about this. They've agreed that we can include it as part of the project. It'll be a great savings to us because we're going to not have to patch and do all that extra work. But at the same time, there's still a lot of money that needs to be talked about being spent there. So that's going to, we're in the process.
There's your other 730.
So,
It's It's right there, Marty, it's right there.
It was like meant to be.
So we're talking about how that all fits into this. I'm expecting that they possibly could get started by July-August timeframe, but the question is, the thing that's going to really determine that is the overall value or what the benefit is for starting at that time, because there's no way they'll likely finish by October. So that puts us into 2 construction seasons. In my mind, everything that's just a mill and paved really kind of just comes out of the project, because you can do that just by bidding that in a month type of a thing, because you're just saying, I just want to resurface this. When you get into the specific designs, 4,000 North, these other things, that's what takes the time. And so what I'm hoping is that they'll maybe work on phasing that project a little bit so they can get a contractor working in the middle of the summer, and we'll have to see how fast we can move forward in design. And it's going to take them at least, even if we award the contract by March 1st for the engineer, which is the plan, by the time the engineer comes on board, you've got 4 months of design in there, so you got March, April, May, June, and so yeah, that's kind of the absolute fastest that can happen is probably a mid-July start.
Mayor, did you hear any more about the funding of 4,000 North out to the First East American Forest?
Nothing new since we had our last discussion.
So our section of 100, is that a reconstruct or?
Yes, that's a reconstruct.
And the other section is going all the way?
The city council.
So when we say reconstruct, what that means is
Down to dirt.
they'll come in and they'll pulverize all the asphalt that's in there.
I like that word, over.
Pulverize into little pieces. They'll mill down also into the base. They'll mill that in, and then they'll recompact everything. They'll do the roadway widening. They'll fix any soft spots that are located through that process, and then they'll come back to 6 inches of brand new pavement on top of that. So
So the crown comes out, the road's better, goes all the way out to where it needs to be.
exactly.
You're gonna try to fit in any utilities that you have under there at the same time.
Anything that needs to be. Our water line is really the only thing that we're concerned about. And you'll be seeing that fairly soon, because we got a concept of that we're working on right now, and what that means, how much we feel like we need to get done. Really from 1100 North to State Street, that's where our worst section is.